The last showing started at 11:30. Friday night, packed theater, young crowd. Walter was checking tickets when he spotted the Troublemakers, loud, aggressive, clearly looking for problems. He was 72, alone. Security would take 10 minutes to arrive. But Walter wasn't afraid. Because 35 years ago, he'd faced much more dangerous situations in the Marine Corps. The Regency Theater had been open downtown since 1954. Red velvet seats, Art Deco lighting, Golden Age Hollywood atmosphere. When chain theaters and multiplexes arrived, business had declined, but it still had a loyal customer base. Walter McKenzie had been working here for 30 years. He'd started in 1993 as a part-time usher. Now he was 72 and still showed up for every shift, from afternoon matinees to late-night showings. Walter's job description was simple: check tickets, direct customers to their seats, maintain order. But in reality, he did much more. He was the theater's unofficial guardian. The regulars loved Walter. Mrs. Chen came every Monday for romantic comedies. Old Mr. Peterson never missed classic film revivals. College students thanked Walter for Discount Tuesdays. "Walter makes this place special," said manager Sarah. "Customers trust him. Families feel safe here." Young people called him Uncle Walter. He was patient, helpful, never judgmental. Even when teenagers got loud, Walter would give gentle reminders. "Please keep voices down, folks. Others are trying to enjoy the movie." When problems arose at the theater, Walter handled them. Drunk customers, disruptive behavior, occasional arguments, he dealt with every situation calmly and professionally. "I've never seen Walter lose his temper," said projectionist Mike. "Guy's got nerves of steel." In Walter's locker behind his uniform was a small photograph that no one ever saw. Vietnam, 1971, a young Marine in camouflage with a sniper rifle over his shoulder. Friday evening, October 23rd. Walter arrived at work at 5:45, same as always. Friday nights were always busy. Date nights, friend groups, families. 7 p.m. showing Top Gun, Maverick, mostly older crowd, nostalgic, respectful. 9:15 p.m. showing Fast X, mixed audience, some energy, but manageable. 11:30 p.m. showing John Wick 4, late crowd, mostly young adults, sometimes unpredictable. Walter handled the evening efficiently. Tickets checked, customers directed, minor issues resolved. When the 9:15 crowd left, Walter cleaned the lobby and prepared for the 11:30 show. At 10:45, the Troublemakers arrived. 5 guys, early 20s, clearly pre-gaming before the movie. Loud voices, aggressive body language, already arguing among themselves. The leader was Jake Sullivan, a local troublemaker Walter had thrown out before. "Well, well," Jake said, seeing Walter, "if it isn't Grandpa Usher." Walter maintained his professional, "Relax, old man. We're paying customers." Jake showed his ticket, valid, late seating for John Wick. Walter had no legal reason to refuse entry. "Theater's filling up," Walter said calmly. "Please keep noise levels down and respect other guests." "Don't worry about us, Gramps. We know how to behave." But Walter's instincts, honed by decades of experience, said otherwise. These weren't just rowdy kids. They were looking for trouble. As the group entered Theater 3, Walter made a mental note. Watch them closely. 11:30 p.m. John Wick 4 started. The theater about 70% full. Mix of young adults, action movie fans, some couples, normal late show crowd. Walter positioned himself at the back of the theater, standard protocol. From there, he could see the entire audience, monitor behavior, respond quickly to problems. The first 30 minutes went smoothly. The movie held the audience's attention. Jake's group seemed focused on the screen. Then came an intermission scene, a relatively quiet moment in the film. That's when Jake started. "This is bullshit," he said loudly. "Where's the action?" "Shut up, man," someone from another row said. "Make me, asshole." Jake stood up, confrontational. His friends joined him. Other audience members were getting uncomfortable. "Hey!" another customer spoke up. "Some of us are trying to watch the movie." "Go watch it at home then, old man." The situation was escalating. Multiple voices now, arguments starting. Walter moved down the aisle. "Gentlemen," Walter said firmly but quietly, "I need you to keep your voices down, or I'll have to ask you to leave." Jake turned to Walter, grinning. "Oh, look, security grandpa thinks he's tough. Sir, this is your final warning. Quiet down or exit the theater." "What if we don't? You gonna throw us out yourself, old man?" Jake pushed Walter's shoulder, not hard, but a deliberate challenge. Physical contact. The line was crossed. Walter stepped back, assessed the situation. 5 aggressive young men, crowded theater, innocent bystanders nearby. Security guard Tony was on break, wouldn't return for 15 minutes. Police response time, at least 10 minutes. "Sir, you've been asked to leave. Please exit peacefully. Make us grandpa." Jake shoved Walter harder. His friends circled around. The audience was getting scared, some people leaving their seats. That's when something changed in Walter's posture. Walter straightened up. His shoulders squared, his stance shifted, his voice dropped to a command tone that hadn't been heard in Theater 3 for 30 years. "Son," Walter said, his voice carrying absolute authority, "you need to step back, now." Jake hesitated. Something in Walter's tone, his sudden presence, was different. "What's wrong, Gramps? Getting tough in your old age?" Walter didn't respond verbally. Instead, he moved with fluid precision that surprised everyone in the theater. When Jake reached for Walter again, Walter caught his wrist in a grip that immediately immobilized the young man's arm. Jake tried to pull away. He couldn't move. "How are you?" "Pressure points," Walter said calmly. "Marine Corps taught me anatomy." Jake's friends moved forward, but Walter positioned Jake between himself and them. Human shield technique, perfectly executed. "Anyone else moves, your friend's wrist breaks," Walter stated as fact, not threat. The theater went completely silent. Even John Wick on screen seemed quiet. "Here's what's going to happen," Walter continued, still holding Jake immobilized. "You're going to walk out of this theater quietly. You're going to get your refund at concessions. You're going to leave this property and not return tonight." "Let go of me, you crazy old man," Walter applied slightly more pressure. Jake gasped. "Or," Walter continued, "I can call police and explain how 5 young men assaulted a 72-year-old theater employee. Your choice." Jake's friends looked uncertain. This wasn't going according to plan. "Danny," Jake said to his friend, "call the cops. This old bastard is assaulting me." "Son," Walter said, his voice patient but firm, "I'm a United States Marine veteran. These hands have been classified as weapons since 1969. You pushed me first in front of 47 witnesses. Self-defense law is very clear." Walter released Jake's wrist. The young man stumbled back, flexing his hand. "Now, are you leaving peacefully, or do we continue this conversation with law enforcement?" Jake looked around the theater. Every phone was out, recording. Every face was watching. No good options. "This isn't over, old man." "Yes," Walter said quietly, "it is." Jake and his friends left the theater, muttering threats, but clearly intimidated. Walter waited until they exited the building, then returned to his position at the back of Theater 3. "Is everyone all right?" he asked the audience. "Sorry for the disruption." Spontaneous applause broke out. Audience members actually clapped for Walter. "That was awesome," a young woman called out. "Thank you," another voice added. Walter nodded, uncomfortable with the attention. "Let's enjoy the rest of the movie." But people were curious now. During the next quiet scene, whispered conversations started. "Did you see how he moved? Where did he learn that? Marine veteran, he said?" After the movie ended, several audience members approached Walter. "Sir, that was incredible. Where did you learn those moves?" "Military training," Walter said simply. "What branch?" "Marines." "When did you serve?" Walter hesitated. "Vietnam era." A young man who'd been recording pulled out his phone. "Sir, this is going viral. You're like a real-life action hero." Walter looked uncomfortable. "I just did my job." The next morning, manager Sarah called Walter into the office. "Walter, we need to talk. After last night's incident, I had to file a report with corporate. They ran a background check." Walter sat down, knowing what was coming. "Walter, why didn't you tell us you were a decorated war veteran?" Sarah showed him a printout. Walter McKenzie, USMC, Scout Sniper, Vietnam War, 1970-1972. Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. Walter looked at the papers. "It wasn't relevant to the job." "Not relevant? Walter, you're a war hero." "I'm a theater usher. That's what matters here." Sarah read from the file. "Silver Star for gallantry in action during the siege of Firebase Charlie. Eliminated multiple enemy targets while under fire. Saved entire unit." "That was 50 years ago, Sarah." "Bronze Star for heroic service during Operation Linebacker. Purple Heart for wounds received in action." Walter shifted uncomfortably. "I just want to check tickets and maintain order." "Walter, you were a Marine sniper, one of the most elite positions in the military. And you've been working here 30 years, never mentioned it once?" "Because it's not who I am anymore. That young Marine in Vietnam, he did what he had to do. I'm proud of my service, but it's over. This is my life now." Sarah looked at him with new respect. "Walter, do you know how many applications we get from security companies wanting to work with us? And we had you all along." "I'm not security, Sarah. I'm an usher. I greet customers, check tickets, help people find their seats. That's the job I signed up for. But last night, some troublemakers crossed the line. I handled it with minimum force necessary. That's all." By Monday, Walter's story had spread throughout the city. Local news interviewed audience members. Social media shared video clips. The newspaper ran a feature story. Vietnam veteran quietly serving community for 30 years. Marine sniper works as movie theater usher. Local hero hiding in plain sight. Walter tried to maintain his normal routine, but customers now looked at him differently. "Are you the Marine from the news? Can I take a selfie with you? Thank you for your service." Walter appreciated the respect but felt uncomfortable with celebrity status. Tuesday evening, an unexpected visitor came to the theater. Retired Marine Colonel James Patterson, 68 years old, had heard Walter's story on the news. "Staff Sergeant McKenzie?" Walter looked up from the ticket booth. "Yes?" "Colonel Patterson, retired. I wanted to meet the Marine who's been serving this community quietly for 30 years. Patterson saluted Walter. "Outstanding work, Marine, in Vietnam and here." Walter returned the salute, muscle memory from decades past. "Thank you, sir. I've been researching your unit." "More than that, I read your Silver Star citation. Under heavy enemy fire, Corporal McKenzie maintained position and provided precision fire support, eliminating 7 enemy combatants and allowing wounded Marines to be evacuated safely." Walter looked uncomfortable. "Ancient history, Colonel." "Marine, there's no such thing as ancient history when it comes to valor. What you did in Vietnam saved lives. What you're doing here, keeping the community safe, serving others, that's the same mission, just a different battlefield." Word spread in the veteran community. Marines especially started coming to the Regency Theater specifically to meet Walter. Young Marines from the nearby base made special trips. Combat veterans sought him out. Military families brought their children. "I want my kids to meet a real hero," one father told Walter. Walter found himself having conversations he'd avoided for decades. "Sir, I just got back from Afghanistan. How do you adjust to civilian life?" Walter would walk with them, talk quietly during slow periods. "Son, transition is hard for everyone. The military taught us to serve, to have a mission, to matter. That doesn't end when you take off the uniform. But how do you find purpose in normal jobs?" "Purpose isn't in the job, Marine. It's in how you do the job. I check tickets and maintain order, but really I'm protecting families night out, ensuring children feel safe, making sure everyone enjoys their movie. The mission continues, just looks different." Younger veterans started volunteering at the theater. Sarah hired 2 Marine veterans as weekend security, inspired by Walter's example. He showed us that service doesn't end with the military, one explained. It just changes form. 6 months later, the Regency Theater hosted a special screening, a Vietnam War documentary, with proceeds going to veteran organizations. Walter was the guest of honor, though he tried to decline. The theater was packed with veterans, military families, community members. Standing ovation when Walter was introduced. "I wasn't going to speak tonight," Walter began, uncomfortable at the podium, but Colonel Patterson convinced me. He looked out at the audience. Veterans he'd inspired, families he'd served, young Marines seeking guidance. People ask me about the transition from combat Marine to movie theater usher. They think it's a strange career change. They're wrong. Walter paused, gathering his thoughts. In Vietnam, my job was protecting Marines in my unit. Here, my job is protecting families in my theater. In combat, I used a sniper rifle. Here, I use presence, experience, commitment. Different tools, same mission. He looked at the young veterans in the audience. For those struggling with civilian transition, your military skills translate to civilian life. Walter held up his old uniform jacket, Marine dress blues he'd worn to the ceremony. This uniform taught me honor, courage, commitment. Taking it off didn't end those values. It just meant finding new ways to live them. A young Marine in the audience called out, "What's your advice for new veterans?" Walter smiled slightly. Find your theater. Find a place where your skills serve others. Might be teaching, might be coaching, might be security work, might be checking movie tickets. Doesn't matter what it looks like from the outside. What matters is that you're still serving. As the ceremony ended, Walter returned to the ticket booth. Friday night, busy evening ahead. Colonel Patterson approached him. "Staff Sergeant, outstanding speech." "Thank you, sir. But the show's starting in 20 minutes. I've got tickets to check." Walter adjusted his usher uniform, straightened his name tag, and took his position at the entrance. 72 years old, Vietnam veteran, community guardian, still serving. Same Marine, different battlefield. The end.